If you want to know which races are actually worth keeping in Iron Soul Dungeon, this tier list is here to make that decision a whole lot easier. There are plenty of races to choose from, and while the mythics clearly dominate when it comes to overall power, that does not mean you should instantly reroll every legendary or epic you get. Some of those lower rarity races can still be surprisingly strong and can carry you through a lot of the game. So, in this video, we're ranking the races in Iron Soul Dungeon from the best to the worst and taking a look at which ones are truly worth your rerolls. Whether you're chasing the strongest mythic, looking for a reliable legendary, or wondering if that epic you just rolled is actually worth keeping, we've got you covered. Let's jump into the tier list and find out which race deserves your next reroll. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking races in Iron Soul Dungeon. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The races in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Goblin. Goblin is basically the race you pick when you really enjoy making your life harder, because while that 40% dash cooldown reduction sounds pretty nice, it does not make up for the absolutely terrible damage output. The extra 20% move speed is helpful for getting around and dodging attacks, but when you are consistently dealing some of the lowest DPS in Iron Soul Dungeon, that extra mobility starts feeling more like running away from your problems than actually solving them. So unless you are completely obsessed with dashing around the map, Goblin is definitely not a race worth sticking with. The races in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Dragonkin, Orc, Human, and Undead. If you want a C tier race that can actually punch above its weight, Dragonkin is easily the one to look at first. With 20% extra crit damage, 20% skill damage, and a massive 40% increase to dash distance, it gives you a really comfortable start, especially if you are still learning the game. Once you pick up some crit chance, that extra crit damage starts doing serious work, and if you build around skills, Dragonkin can put out some surprisingly good numbers in the mid game. The extra dash distance is just the cherry on top, letting you zip around dungeons without feeling like your character forgot how legs work. Orc may not have any flashy tricks, but sometimes boring is exactly what you want when you are starting out. With 10% extra attack and 20% more health, Orc gives you the two things that matter most while you are learning how to farm dungeons, hitting harder and not getting flattened immediately. It is a simple, reliable race that does its job without asking you to build around some complicated strategy. You probably will not be showing off your Orc to the whole server, but it is a very solid way to get your early game rolling. Undead is another race that gives you a pretty comfortable mix of offense and defense right from the start. You get 20% skill damage, a 16% cooldown reduction, and 20% extra health. So pretty much everything is covered except maybe making your enemies feel bad about what is happening to them. These bonuses are especially useful early on, but the problem is that Undead starts losing its appeal as you progress and unlock more race rerolls. It is definitely good enough to use at the beginning, but once you have better options available, this skeleton has probably done enough work and can finally rest. Human is basically Orc after taking a small pay cut because it keeps the 10% attack bonus but loses the extra 20% health. That makes it a weaker version of Orc, but that does not mean it is a bad choice for beginners. The extra attack still helps you clear early content more comfortably, and Human is perfectly fine while you're getting familiar with dungeon farming and working toward better races. Just keep in mind that once those race rerolls start coming in, Human should probably be one of the first candidates for an upgrade. The races in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Night Elf, Angel, and Vampire. Night Elf is basically Lucifer's slightly less powerful cousin, but honestly, that is still a pretty good family to be part of. You get 20% attack, 20% crit damage, 20% skill damage, a huge 200% luck boost, 40% move speed, and 30% health, giving you a really well-rounded setup with some extra defensive comfort. You will not hit quite as hard as Fairy or Sorcerer, but the additional defenses and mobility make Night Elf much safer to play. And then there is that ridiculous luck boost, which makes Knight to Elf one of the best races in the entire game for farming drops. If you are farming ore, there is really no reason to overthink it. Night Elf is the race you want. Angel is the kind of race that refuses to specialize because apparently being good at everything is more fun. You get 20% attack, 10% crit rate, 20% crit damage, and 20% ultimate charge rate, so your damage is not quite at the top of the food chain, but it is definitely close. Where Angel really starts showing off is the defensive side. with 30% extra health, 40% move speed, and an enormous 60% increase to dash distance. That combination gives you some of the best survivability and mobility in the game, so even if your damage is not breaking records, good luck actually catching you or taking you down. Vampire might be the closest thing Iron Soul Dungeon has to putting your character on roller skates and launching them down a hill. With 100% move speed and an absolutely ridiculous 200% increase to dash distance, Vampire is easily the most mobile race in the game. If it also had Goblin's dash cooldown reduction, you could probably spend the entire dungeon flying around while enemies question their life choices. Its damage is not bad either, thanks to 20% crit rate and 24% crit damage, giving it a similar critical hit focus to Fairy and Sorcerer, although the lack of other base damage boosts leaves it slightly behind them. Just remember that Vampire is limited to the current season, so once the season ends, you will not be able to obtain it anymore. The races in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Fairy and Sorcerer. Fairy is where things start getting serious, because this race is basically built with one question in mind: how much damage can you possibly squeeze out of your character? With 22% crit rate, 32% crit damage, 22% skill damage, and a massive 42% ultimate charge rate, Fairy can absolutely melt enemies once you start stacking more critical stats. The fast ultimate charge is especially nasty because you will be throwing out your ultimate abilities much more often, turning every fight into a small fireworks show. The catch is that Fairy has almost no mobility or defensive help, so you need to use every dash wisely unless you enjoy getting flattened while dealing impressive numbers. Sorcerer follows almost exactly the same game plan as Fairy, because apparently subtle differences were not invited to this party. With 20% crit rate, 30% crit damage, 20% skill damage, and 40% ultimate charge rate, Sorcerer is another excellent choice for maximizing DPS and shredding enemies with critical hits and frequent ultimates. Once you start stacking crit chance, the damage can get ridiculous very quickly, and you will feel like every ability comes with a complementary explosion. Just like Fairy though, Sorcerer sacrifices mobility and defensive options for all that damage, so you need to play carefully and make those dashes count. The races in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Lucifer and Demon. Lucifer is sitting comfortably at the top for a reason, because this race basically decided it wanted to be good at everything. With 40% attack, 30% crit rate, a massive 60% skill damage, 100% luck, 60% move speed, and 40% health, Lucifer gives you insane DPS, while also covering mobility, survivability, and farming. That 100% luck boost is also the second best drop chance bonus in the game, so you are not just hitting enemies harder, you are getting more value out of your farming too. The only real problem is getting Lucifer to 3 stars, since it is a mythic, so the grind can be brutal, but once you finally get there, you are pretty much set. Demon comes extremely close to Lucifer, because apparently being slightly worse than the best race is still pretty fantastic. You get 24% attack, 12% crit rate, 24% crit damage, 24% skill damage, 24% cooldown reduction, 48% move speed, and 60% dash distance, giving you strong bonuses across almost every important area. Your DPS is still firmly in the top tier, although you trade some of Lucifer's raw skill damage for cooldown reduction, letting you use your abilities more frequently. Demon also has better mobility thanks to the higher move speed and dash distance, but unlike Lucifer, it does not give you any extra health. So if Lucifer is the all-around king, Demon is the slightly faster guy standing right behind him, wondering when the throne is going to become available. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.